Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Cody Proctor. This is the KREM 2 News Week in Review, where each weekend we bring you the headlines from the past week here in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
Prepare to vote.
In a unanimous vote tonight, council members approved the Safe and Accessible Spaces Ordinance. It gives police officers the discretion and ability to arrest camping violators. The change supported by the president and CEO of the Downtown Spokane Partnership, Emily Cameron, who says the new policy is a welcomed and necessary one.
Downtown desperately needs change, and we need people who feel safe coming downtown again.
Along with the law enforcement discretion, it also makes it illegal to obstruct public property like sidewalks, bridges, and viaducts, and also illegal to sit or lie in entrances or exits to businesses or private property. It also increases penalties for littering and reckless burning to misdemeanors. Cameron says several businesses DSP works with across the city have run into safety and accessibility problems she says this new ordinance will help solve.
We have blocked access to businesses. Residents can't access their doorways, and we've created conditions where the most vulnerable are being preyed upon in our sidewalks.
Every council member tonight spoke before voting on the ordinance, saying it's a step in the right direction. But some community members, like Melanie Perry, say the new ban lacks compassion for people in the community who have no other housing option and are forced to camp.
People do need comfort and care and to be moved to a safe, warm place.
She also spoke against how the vote was added to the agenda, saying it was put on last minute after its discussion in today's Public Safety and Community Health Committee meeting. She says community members didn't have time to learn more about the ordinance or discuss it before voting.
And my friends who watched the afternoon meeting and were around told me that this thing just got added in. It's not on the website. It's not in the agenda. I don't like this process.
Despite the pushback, the ordinance's supporters, including all council members, say it will achieve a balance between public safety and helping the unhoused.
Well, just a day away from a closure deadline, now the 6 offices for WIC run by the Spokane Regional Health District will remain open. The Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program, or WIC, provide food benefits for pregnant mothers, new parents, and children up to 5 years old. Additional funding will extend layoff notices until November 30th, and WIC offices managed by SRHD will remain open through November 26th. Separate from the SRHD WIC offices, there are 4 other WIC offices in Spokane run by the West Central Community Center. They say they are also happy to hear other WIC offices won't have to close.
This morning, we're in fear of needing to serve another 10,000 clients, right? Today, we know that they're going to get enough funding to run. And now we're like, okay, let's just keep up with what we have in front of us.
However, one mother who is both a WIC participant and employee says WIC families still face a lot of pressure. She says her family of 7 relies on both WIC and SNAP benefits. With SNAP ending in a matter of days, she is trying to stretch what funds she has to keep afloat.
Essentially, anything that was free money to spend is no longer free money to spend. We already were working on a very tight budget, especially with 5 kids in the house. You know, there's always things that are needed this time of year, coats, like snow pants, boots, all that kind of stuff. And honestly, some of those might just have to wait for a little bit.
Now, to show the WIC's impact in 2024 data shows that Spokane County has about 17,000 participants. SRHD says their 6 WIC offices manage about 10,000 clients. Now, this WIC office right behind me is not managed by the Spokane Regional Health District, but rather the West Central Community Center. Now, the manager inside tells me she is relieved to hear this news because they were preparing for an increase in demand and community need with those other WIC offices closing. But now those offices will remain open. I'm reporting here in the West Central neighborhood. Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
The well is wrung dry is one of the first things to read on the USDA's website as a response to SNAP benefits going away at the start of November. The website shows roughly 42 million people currently rely on the food assistance program, but the Trump administration says those funds won't be available in just a few days. The reason? They say due to the government shutdown, there's no money available to fund the program. This prompted Washington Attorney General Nick Brown joining alongside 22 more attorneys general and 3 governors in a lawsuit against the USDA. In a statement, Brown describes the impending cuts as unnecessary and illegal. He says the United States Department of Agriculture has contingency funding available for times like these, but the Trump administration is refusing to use it. The lawsuit argues SNAP has $6 billion in reserve funds designated for when the government is shut down, and therefore funds shouldn't be put on hold. The USDA has rejected the idea of using contingency funds to keep food aid afloat and blames Democratic lawmakers for voting 12 times to not fund the food stamp program. Roughly 1 in 8 people in the United States receive food stamps. State leaders argue in the suit that the suspension of SNAP benefits even during a government shutdown is illegal and will harm millions of families who rely on the program. Governor Bob Ferguson posted to X on the matter, saying political games from President Trump and congressional Republicans are harming the most vulnerable Washingtonians. We're fighting to protect the people of our state. Governor Ferguson also announced today he'll be reserving $2.2 million each week to go towards food banks while the shutdown is still active, starting November 1st. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It's been a busy week across the Inland Northwest, so let's catch you up on some of the news you might have missed.
Generous and humble. Those are the two words Nadine Arata used to describe her late husband, Dan Arata. Tonight, she and her family are still processing this unexpected loss. Nadine tells me Dan left Spokane late Friday night, eager to meet up with his brothers and a few friends in Montana for a hunting trip. But the plane he was flying crashed before landing. His wife says he's been flying for about 4 years. To Nadine, Dan was the love of her life, and to the Spokane community, he was the friendly owner of Arata's Automax and RV and Arata's Mitsubishi. Nadine says she feels this loss deeply.
Just the hole in my heart that he's left. I mean, you don't realize it when you're living with someone, you know, how important they are until they're gone. And here I am, you know, with him gone, I'm just, wow, half of me is gone. I don't even know how to move forward. I don't know how to navigate this.
Dan and Nadine have a blended family. Nadine says they share 8 children and 5 grandchildren. It's not yet clear what's caused Dan's plane to crash, but the FAA and coroner continue to investigate. In the newsroom, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
It was an emotional day in court for both families involved. However, Sarah Doxey's family tells me that every time they walk through those doors, it's like constantly starting over. This afternoon in a Spokane County juvenile courtroom.
It's so much worse than you think.
Sherry Ann and her family sat quiet as they have every hearing since her sister's death.
Please rise.
A process they say never gets easier.
We will learn to move on eventually, but every time we have to come here, we rip the scab off. It's like we're starting all over again every time. That's been the hardest part.
Today, a Spokane County judge decided whether or not the 18-year-old suspect, Keegan Forshee, allegedly responsible for her sister's death, will be allowed to leave police custody again. A scenario Sarah's husband, Eric Doxey, says would be a nightmare.
Learning to live a new life without your significant other and the mother of your children is something I would not wish on my worst enemy.
CHAS COO Sarah Doxey died after being hit by a car while on an early morning run in mid-July. A month after being arrested, then 17-year-old Forshee was released from juvenile custody with an ankle monitor while awaiting trial after pleading not guilty to DUI, hit and run, as well as vehicular homicide charges. Now, Forshee is back in court for a re-retention hearing following an ankle monitor violation.
That said any violation to result in a rehearing of detention.
When we were in the ICU room, knowing that she wasn't going to make it, I made a decision then that anytime my sister's name was said in court, I would be here. Because it is the last thing I can do for her.
In court, officials say Forshee allegedly had 2 friends come over to his house to help him remove tattoos from his arms, which directly violates terms set forth by a judge back in August.
But the other thing that everyone is correct on is there are no minor violations.
Today, a judge decided that Forshee will remain in adult custody until a later court date.
That will conclude this matter.
Something Doxy's mother, Carolyn, says the family is grateful for.
It's exhausting and it's delightful to know that he's being held accountable.
Forshee is expected to be back in court on January 26th for his trial. In Spokane, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
Well, court documents from Nez Perce County District Court show 33-year-old defendant Skylar Mead is now facing 2 counts of murder in the first degree. The new murder charge involves victim Gerald D. Henderson. Originally, Mead faced only 1 count for the death of James Monty. Our previous reporting notes on March 20th of 2024, Skylar Mead escaped state custody out of a Boise hospital. Correction officers guarding him were violently attacked, allegedly by an accomplice who was outside the hospital. This initiated a 36-hour pursuit by authorities. Now, the second murder charge related to this case was formally filed on Friday, October 24th in Nez Perce County. Nez Perce County Prosecutor Justin Coleman tells me there's still a lot to work through before this case can close.
Still a long ways to go at the stage that we're at. We'll continue to talk about resolutions that are appropriate and that the victims feel okay with as we work through this.
Coleman added the second alleged murder took place just outside of Orofino near Gerald Henderson's home, whereas the first alleged murder, that of James Monty, happened near Julietta. To consolidate this case, Coleman says that a change of venue has been granted, meaning all court proceedings will now happen in Nez Perce County, even though Henderson's alleged murder originally happened in Clearwater County. Now, an update to this case will be on March 23rd. That is when trial is set. This is still a continuing and developing story. I'm reporting here in the studio. Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Thanks for joining KREM 2 News this weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Right now, we're taking a look back at some of the news stories from the past week in this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review.
A Ring doorbell camera at the Learning Nest preschool in Issaquah shows a frightened Diana Romero holding her son. She's telling someone behind the door she suspects ICE agents are going to arrest her. Romero is currently detained at the Northwest ICE Processing Center in Tacoma. ICE has not explained why she was arrested, but her relative says she was undocumented and had been deported once in 2023. Kevin, which is not his real name, spoke to us through an interpreter.
She actually wasn't in the process of asylum. She technically doesn't have a process right now. She had technically been deported before, but because of her son, that she decided to make the choice to come back.
Since Romero's arrest, Kevin has been taking care of her son.
The manner that they went about it was not the best, that it shouldn't have been done at the daycare. He shouldn't have done it in front of her kids. Her kids shouldn't have witnessed that they should have done it differently.
Kevin says another relative, his cousin, was also taken into ICE custody this morning.
They followed her from home. She was on her way to work. She works at McDonald's, and then when she parked is when they stopped her.
Kevin says Diana has no criminal history in the U.S. or in Colombia. Now he struggles to explain to her 4-year-old son why his mother is gone.
Because he's a baby, he doesn't really understand what's going on. He sees cars similar to the ones that arrested his mom, and so sometimes he'll ask, are those the cars that arrested my mom? But because he's little, he doesn't really understand.
I'm at Appleway Avenue near the I-90 US 95 interchange. Traffic in this stretch of Coeur d'Alene is expected to double in the next 20 years. And if nothing changes, the Idaho Transportation Department says backups could spill onto I-90 itself, increasing the chances for more rear-end crashes.
That's why right now the state is redesigning the I-90 US 95 interchange.
one of the busiest and most complicated traffic points in North Idaho.
It's just solid traffic all the time. There's no premium time to go.
This week, ITD updated the city on the latest concepts, all focused on easing congestion. The plan would add new access routes between Appleway Avenue and US 95, upgrade Fruitland and Haycraft to handle more cars, and include new traffic signals to help drivers safely merge onto the highway.
What makes the most sense for the city, because it's a local road. ITD is just trying to help solve the question that the public had, that we want better connectivity.
ITD says these changes came after hearing concerns from neighbors earlier this year about losing access along Appleway. Now, ITD is reviewing 8 new concepts for the east side of the interchange based on that feedback.
A lot more people that are here in Coeur d'Alene is not like it used to be, so the roads haven't changed. Something's got to give.
The community will be able to weigh in before the updated designs are final. ITD is hosting an open house November 18th at the Best Western Plus Coeur d'Alene Inn. So if you've ever been stuck in traffic here, this might be your chance to help shape what the fix looks like. Reporting in Coeur d'Alene, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscasts and weather forecasts anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download on Roku, Amazon Fire, and on Apple TV. Now, here's one more story before we go.
The 9-month lead up to a Together Spokane decision has been about educating voters. It's admittedly a lot to take in, as Superintendent Adam Swinyard knows.
Every school, every park, every neighborhood gets some type of investment from this initiative.
Spokane Parks and Rec is asking for a $240 million 20-year levy. Spokane Public Schools is running a $200 million 5-year bond. Spokane voters will see 2 separate items on the ballot, but SPS and Spokane Parks are working together to stretch those tax dollars. They say they'll be able to accomplish 200 projects citywide, including 30 joint projects for 29 cents for every $1,000 of home value. If passed by voters, Spokane Parks levy would largely fund upgrades to all 54 city parks. The city would also add 3 new parks.
And then it's also renovating and replacing every restroom that we have in our facility, to look at the design differently. How can we create a safer environment? How do we maintain it more frequently?
Director Garrett Jones says they'll focus heavily on a need the department heard in its master planning, maintenance, and safety.
So right now we have 4 full-time park rangers within our system. With the partnership of both these initiatives passing, we could increase that 4-fold.
But if the Alliance School Bond fails, the city could only afford to double ranger staffing. For Spokane schools, bond passage would bring improvements to every school and district facility, including major updates to some buildings. Adams and Madison Elementaries, some of the city's oldest schools, would be rebuilt, with Madison making room for a community recreation center.
It'll be a school with a Boys and Girls Club inside of it, a 5-court field house, in part funded by the Boys and Girls Club, by Hoop Fest, the Pacific Northwest Qualifier.
But the district can only add these extra community amenities if the parks levy also passes. 30 joint projects hinge on voters approving both taxes. Swinyard and Jones say Together Spokane could pull in large sports tournaments. It's already drawing in national buy-in.
$15 million in private funds will be coming, up to $60 million in state match.
Another joint project reliant on both taxes passing November 4th is an indoor tennis facility at Shadle Park High School. The U.S. Tennis Association is prepared to be a funding partner.
If one prevails and the other does not, then those partnership projects won't happen.
Most likely then you lose those community outside partners.
Together Spokane's website offers a calculator where you can find the increase to your property tax bill. Swinyard says the average homeowner will pay about $8 a month.
We want every member of the community to ask themselves, do any of these projects either save me money and or is it worth my less than $8 a month?
The school bond requires 60% approval to pass, while the parks levy is a 50% pass rate. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Thank you so much for spending a part of your weekend with us on the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news and weather updates. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.